Hello everyone, and welcome to my How to Play Decked Out video. Today we're going to cover everything you need to know to play Decked Out, or just to understand what the heck is going on when you're watching someone else play this game. So what is Decked Out? Well, it's a deck building, dungeon crawling, treasure hunting, collect 'em all trading game. And what does all that mean? I'm glad you asked. Let's first do a quick overview. So the goal of Decked Out is to collect sets of artifacts and hand them in. Each time you do, you get a point. The player with the most points at the end of the game wins. You can find artifacts inside the dungeon. The dungeon is a huge handcrafted encounter with themed areas and many secrets. Oh, and it's filled with a bunch of ravagers that want to eat your face. Search through the dungeon to find your artifacts, and if you're lucky, you might even make it out alive. Once you're back out, you'll have a choice of new cards. You can keep these cards and build your own custom deck that will fit your playstyle. And these cards will customize the dungeon and grant you powers and benefits during your future dungeon runs. You can trade with other players at any time to help you collect more sets or try to get better cards. And there's also a shop for you to buy new items with in-game coins. There's a daily auction for players to bid on, and there's a way to trade in cards to get upgraded ones that are more powerful. So I'm sure you now have a ton of questions. Let's go into some more detail. As you enter Decked Out for the first time, you'll find the main hall. You'll want to find an available artifact board and claim it as your own. And then go ahead and put your player head up on top like this so everyone knows whose it is. You could then take your starting shulker box, which inside you'll find a lot of things that will help you get going on your first dungeon run. So your goal of the game is to collect artifacts, and there are many different types of sets. Each set has 4 different pieces in it. There's a common, an uncommon, a rare, and a unique. And these descriptors also clearly denote how likely you are to find these pieces. When you get all 4 pieces of a set, go ahead and put them in your barrel here and press the button. And shortly thereafter, the game's amazing administrator will verify your set and grant you a point. And over on the scoreboard over here, the scores of all players are updated daily. Now you'll notice that your board has 12 item frames on it, and these are for your currently owned artifacts. Every artifact that you own must be kept on this board in plain view for everyone to see. If you get more than 12 artifacts, you then have to decide which 12 you want to keep on the board and submit the rest back to the game at the end of this hallway. These artifacts that you hand back in will be recycled back into play. Every day throughout the course of the game, the administrator will be hiding a bunch of shulker boxes in the shopping district. Find one of these boxes, and inside you'll find a key to the dungeon, an enchanted compass, and maybe a few decked out coins that serve as the currency for the game. Now, if you aren't lucky enough to find one of these hidden shulkers, fear not, because you can also acquire a key and a compass another way. Just around the corner from the main hall, you'll find the compass timer. These lights will slowly light up over the course of many hours, and once they're all lit, a button will be revealed. All you gotta do is press this button, and a dungeon key and compass will pop up from the floor below this carpet. So you're ready to head into the dungeon. All right. Take your dungeon key and head over here, put your key in this barrel, and the doors will open. Go ahead and head up the stairs, say hello to the guardians, and be sure to set your spawn point in this cozy bedroom provided, and put all your belongings in the shulkers. The only thing you can take into the dungeon with you is your compass. Your inventory must be completely empty and your gear all removed. Now take your personal deck of cards and put it in here. At first, it should be noted that this is going to be empty, but as you run the dungeon more and more, you'll acquire a collection of cards that will personalize the dungeon experience to your advantage. Press this button here and your cards will be processed and the dungeon will be customized based on your cards. At this point, the dungeon is active and you are free to go in and die. If you are entering the dungeon with a compass, then now's a good time to start paying attention to it, because that little red arrow is going to point to your personalized loot stash. Keep exploring the dungeon and keep following your compass until you get to the spot where it looks like your needle is just going crazy. Throw your compass on that spot, and if it's correct, it will be absorbed through the floor and a shulker box will pop up. Inside that shulker, you'll likely find a whole bunch of artifacts that are yours to keep, and and possibly some coins. Once you've got your loot, you might want to consider getting out quickly, because if you die, everything you're carrying will despawn on the ground. You won't be able to go back in and retrieve it. Navigating the dungeon isn't exactly a walk in the park. As a stealthy adventurer, you want to get in and get out while being as quiet as possible. However, everyone makes a little noise, or as it's called in this game, clank. As you wander around the dungeon, you'll occasionally create clank, and you'll know it by hearing this sound. Clank is bad. The more clank you create, the more aware the beasts within the dungeon will become of your presence. And as you continue to clank it up all over the place, you'll notice some walls of the dungeon will lift up, which will greatly increase the visibility of the beasts in the dungeon that are hunting you down, allowing them to track you much better. This is bad. Eventually, your clank levels can get so high that you'll awaken the spirits of the dungeon. This is very bad. Now you can monitor your current clank levels by listening to your own heartbeat, which will echo throughout the dungeon. The more clank you create, the faster your heartbeat will become. Decked Out is an ongoing game meant to be played over many weeks. So as you run the dungeon many times, you'll acquire a lot of different kinds of cards that you can keep in a shulker deck. And you keep this deck of cards and plug it into the dungeon before every run. The first 5 cards you put in your deck will be pulled out and used to customize that dungeon run. Now, cards come in 3 different tiers. The higher the tier, the more powerful the card is. Tier 3 cards have 3 times the effect of Tier 1 cards. Also, you may have the same type of card in your deck as many times as you want, and the effects are additive. So pick your best 5 and stack them up. Alright then, let's go over each of the card types, starting with Stealth. Every adventurer needs a bit of stealth, because clank is your enemy and stealth prevents it. Every tier of stealth cards you have in your deck will negate some of the clank that you would have normally generated. So you'll know your stealth is working when you hear this tiptoe noise inside the dungeon. That means you would have normally generated clank, but instead you prevented it. Being stealthy and generating less clank allows you to stay in the dungeon longer with less threat. This is a very good thing. Next up, we have Beast Sense, which allows you to know the location of some of the beasts within the dungeon. Every so often, you'll hear a bell ring throughout the dungeon, and the beast will gain the glow effect, allowing you to see them from across the dungeon. The more tiers of Beast Sense you have in your deck, the more frequently these bells will ring. Let's face it, there's nothing worse than turning a corner and having the beast take you out in one chomp. So throw a resistance card in your deck and you'll periodically be given the resistance beacon effect. Having the beacon effect isn't going to allow you to go toe-to-toe with the beast, but it will allow you to take a few hits and get away. The more ranks of resistance you have in your deck, the more frequently you'll have this effect upon you. All throughout the dungeon, you'll find many barrels on the ground. With the Loot Finder card, some of these barrels will randomly be filled with some decked out coins. And the more ranks of Loot Finder you have in your deck, the more coins there'll be in these barrels. I mean, it's basically free money, and it's a great source of extra income for the shop and the daily auctions as part of the game. Finally, we have Soul Seeker, a very interesting card. Hidden throughout the dungeon are 22 soul flames, and by default, they are covered with a chiseled brick. But each run, some of them will be randomly revealed. If you find a revealed soul flame, you want to punch it out with your fist. The more soul flames that you extinguish, the better your reward cards are at the end of the run. Punch out 4, 6, or even 8 soul flames in a single dungeon run? Don't be surprised to start receiving tier 2 or even tier 3 cards as your reward. The more Soul Seeker ranks you have in your deck, the more soul flames will be revealed each run. As you start to acquire more coins, you'll probably want to start thinking about spending them. So just off the entrance to the dungeon is Ye Olde Shop, where you can spend some of your hard-earned coins. See an item you want on the wall? Simply toss in the required coins into the barrel, and the items will pop up under the black carpet. But if the light is out, that means that item has already been purchased. The incredible administrator of the game will keep the shop stocked with a variety of items to keep you tempted each day. Every day or two, there will be an auction held for a particularly interesting item, and this is a silent auction for all players to bid on. If you're interested in the item, simply put your bid in coins inside your barrel and press the button. Your light will turn on, letting others know that you've bid, but they won't know how much. And when the auction ends, the winner will have that item in their barrel, and the losers will have their losing bids returned to them, minus a few coins. And that's it. That is how you play Decked Out. However, there are some very important rules that I must cover first. Rule number 1, do not break any blocks or entities. Consider this game to be an adventure mode. You must go into the dungeon naked, and you must have an empty inventory except for a compass or other items you've purchased for the game. All artifacts you own must stay on your board. No exceptions. You cannot keep extra artifacts in your possession. You cannot hold onto artifacts, even if you plan to trade them soon. If you have more than 12 artifacts, trade them back to the system. You may attempt to fight a zombie, a skeleton, or a Vex inside the dungeon if you choose, but do not try to hurt any other creatures you encounter. They took a very long time to get them there. You may not use, consume, or equip anything you find in the dungeon unless you find it in a chest or barrel. Do not sleep in the dungeon. It is not a happy place to wake up. And finally, please, please, please return anything that was provided by the game that you are done with into this box, like shulkers, because I don't have an infinite amount of them. And that is it for Decked Out. If you have any questions about how to play the game that I missed, leave a comment and I'll answer them. If you are a hermit, good luck.